Welcome to the show. Now, we've been hitting the streets here around the region in regards to the federal election. And one of the things that we're hearing is that no one knows who is running. So here to help me remedy that problem is Milt Wakefield. You might recognize him. He served 2 terms in the Saskatchewan legislature. He was our local MLA for Sask Party. Previous to that, he was the Chief Commissioner for the Grain Commission in Winnipeg for 10 years. Thanks so much for coming on the show, acting as our political analyst today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. When it's election time, it's kind of fun. And so I hope everybody will look at the situation as an opportunity to get involved and hopefully say, yeah, I want to think about these candidates rather than just get turned off by them.
Exactly. Well, let's get right into it here. Battlefords, Lloydminster. It's looking at a population right now of 71,000, just over. The politics here have been conservative since 2004. Last election, the Conservatives received 53% of the vote. Before that, the Canadian Alliance was in it since 2000, and then before that, we had the Reform Party in since 1997. Now, the major industries here, obviously agriculture and oil. The average family income is just over $64,000 a year, and the unemployment rate right now is sitting at 5.2%. Now, the incumbent in this riding, of course, is Minister Jerry Ritz, ex-Minister Jerry Ritz, I guess I should say. He is 57. He's married. He has 2 children, and now he's been elected since 1997. He is also appointed the Agriculture Minister during the Cabinet Shuffle in 2007. He is a former farmer and a business owner, and he is from Rosetown, Saskatchewan. Now, people really like Jerry Ritz in this constituency. That's usually what I hear when I'm on the streets. Is that sort of what you hear as well?
Well, he is. Jerry's been around ever since 1997, like you mentioned. He's been through the different forms of the /conservative side. You mentioned that as well. He's been involved with the cabinet, so that puts him at a different profile level than if he wasn't. But his success rate in the constituency has been pretty solid all the way through, and he's been a pretty visible candidate. And whether the earlier election, he had some problems with some of the things that he described kind of off the camera, and that kind of came back to haunt him. But nonetheless, he overcame that, the party overcame that, and he was reelected with a pretty solid majority. So people know Jerry pretty well because he lives not far from Lloyd.
It really puts him ahead in this election too. The other candidates definitely have their work cut out for them. He said in an interview with Newcap News earlier this month that he's concerned that this election will interfere with the Conservatives' plan for the economy. Do you think that is a platform that resonates with people in this region?
Well, it's certainly a platform of the Conservative Party. The leader, Stephen Harper, is staying right on message no matter why. When people try to get him off the message, they stay right on the economy, the economy, the economy, and don't let the quote coalition interfere with this with our economy, because we've done a pretty good job. And actually, when you look at the other countries, the G8 countries, they have in fact done a pretty good job. That being said, there's still a lot of things that should be said, and the other parties and the candidates here, I think, are willing to talk about those things, and those are important.
How likely is it, I mean, seeing the history in this riding, and you know, it's very conservative, how likely do you think it is that that we will overthrow the Conservative stronghold here?
Personally, I don't think it will happen, but it always hasn't been conservative in Saskatchewan. We have had NDP members of the Parliament, and I'm trying to think if there was ever a Liberal candidate. In my earlier life, I can't think of one just offhand. But it's in this case, I don't think it's likely, just because it's very hard for somebody to take on a minister that has shown quite a bit of leadership around the world in agriculture. Lots of things to do yet, but it's very, very difficult to do that. So the other candidates, and we may want to talk about that.
Yeah.
The other candidates,
well,
I think.
I mean, our next candidate here, let's just move on here on that sort of note. Glenn Tate, he's the NDP candidate. Right. He is 48 years old. He has 2 kids. His electoral history, he was defeated as the NDP candidate in 1996 in the North Battleford riding for the provincial election that was in there. He is a farmer. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture from the University of Saskatchewan. Now, the last NDP candidate that ran in this riding was Bob Willishin. He received 25% of the vote last time, but voter turnout was very, very low. Tate is saying that if we can get voter turnout up, he thinks that there are more people, more NDPers in here that can turn this sort of election around. What do you think about that prospect?
Well, I sure wish them luck to get more people out. That is really a critical issue in the election, and you know, and other people are talking about the voter turnout being so low, and that's a real problem. What Glenn is trying to do, and I wish him luck, is to try to get people enthused about some of the other issues that really aren't being addressed. And he's a well-spoken person. I've seen him interviewed on TV. I don't know him personally, but he comes across very well. A very solid kind of person, very well known in the farming community in the Battlefords area, and I think he will get people to identify with him, maybe not the message so much, but with him, because the person and the persona they project is very important. He
says that if elected, he's going to be an advocate for the Canadian Wheat Board here. He wants more farmer control on the Canadian Wheat Board. He's also saying that the railways are overcharging about $200 million a year on average, and he wants to ask for a cost of service review. What kind of voter is he attracting with these platforms?
Well, he's attracting certainly the farmers that understand how the Wheat Board is involved and rail transportation and so on. And as a matter of fact, he's hitting some points that actually have shown up to be actually in place. There was an overcharge on freight rates, for instance. The polls continue to keep showing that for certainly more than half of the farmers that are growing wheat want to retain the Wheat Board. So he's really talking on some issues that are the bread and butter of the NDP party.
Awesome. Let's move on to our Green Party candidate. His name is Norbert Kretschmer. He's 45 years old. He has ran federally before. He was defeated as the Green Party candidate in 2006 and in 2008. He is an organic grain and cattle farmer. Now, he's campaigning for health care. He wants to ban steroids and hormones in agriculture, and he wants to find a new renewable energy source. He's very against nuclear energy, but does want to explore wind energy or other sustainable options. His slogan is healthy soil, healthy animals, healthy people. Just a great advocate for Green Party platforms there, really, eh?
Well, it is, and there's a lot of support for that kind of thing. As you know, in the news recently, with the problems with the nuclear power, electrical generation in Japan, and there's always been a very strong sentiment against development of nuclear power in Saskatchewan, and so that kind of fits this agenda really quite well. Also, he's tapping into that group that are very concerned about the environment, how the environment plays into people, how it affects people, and how the environment should be now considered a business venture. So he's turning his attention toward that, and you know, there's quite a bit of support for that. Looking at some of the Green Party material, he's also talking about some of the things that would appeal to a conservative that just doesn't want to look at the economy as the issue.
Right.
There's certain things that do overplay between the Green Party and the Conservatives. It doesn't seem that way when you first look at it, but there are similarities. In fact, there's similarities right across the board, but there's a focus certainly on the economy.
Now we have one more candidate left in the battle for Lloydminster constituency, and that is Jordan LaPlante. He's the Liberal candidate. He's 27 years old. This is his first time running. He has no electoral history. His occupation right now is a student. He's enrolled in business at the University of Saskatchewan, and he's actually from Saskatoon. He's a member of the English River First Nation, and he's hoping to improve the quality of life on the reserves. He's also running to raise awareness for Aboriginal and youth issues. Now, we were saying before, how important do you think it is for these kinds of people to run just to almost raise awareness issues?
Well, I think it's very important. The Liberal Party in the past, I know, have always tried to put a candidate in each constituency with the idea of trying to get the message across. Now, Jordan's platform, the items that he wants to talk about, I think is very appropriate because he is a First Nation person.
Yep.
He wants to draw attention to the First Nations, and First Nations have generally been very interconnected with the federal government more so than the provincial government.
Right.
So those issues, I think, are really quite important, certainly for the constituents that he's trying to represent. The trouble is that he doesn't live here. He's probably not going to be here very often,
right.
so people won't get to hear his message very clearly.
Right. You know, we were talking about voter apathy before, and he's hoping that, you know, being a young Aboriginal person, that he attracts and interests those kinds of voters. I mean, do you think that that works? Do you think young people get involved when other young people are running?
Boy, I sure hope they do. It's the young people that are going to save the situation, because voter apathy is a kind of a contagious thing. Mm-hmm. Once you get the party doing attack ads on each other, generally people turn off from that. However, it's been proven that attack ads do work, and so it kind of counters one or the other. The more attack ads you do, the more people get turned off, so the more they are effective on a smaller demographic, and it keeps spiraling down, and apathy is going to be literally a killer for us in the near future.
Now that is the Battleford Lloydminster constituency. After the break, we're going to look at Viggo Wainwright. Stay tuned.